I just think if you do nothing else with your life but share the things that you really find beautiful, the real beauty in life, the beauty of one another, the beauty of love, the beauty of that child, for me, it's nature, then you're a success.
Hello and welcome to Titanic Legacy, a podcast that explores Titanic's lasting impact through conversations with creative, interesting, and inspirational people. Authors, artists, historians, actors, filmmakers, musicians, entrepreneurs, and more, who continue to keep the Ship of Dreams legacy not only alive, but thriving through their creative work, hobbies, storytelling, and conversations. I'm your host, Paul Carganilla, and today we have the pleasure of getting to know a beloved member of James Cameron's 97 Titanic crew, Kathleen Bobak, who goes for short simply by Bo. She spent more than 25 years in the film and television industry as assistant director, unit production manager, producer, and director. Her credits include well-known film and TV series such as Something to Talk About, The Last of the Mohicans, The Fugitive, Nell, Arlington Road, A Time to Kill, Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken, and Steven Spielberg's Minority Report. In 1997, she was awarded a Directors Guild Award for her work as a second assistant director for James Cameron's Titanic. I can't wait to dig into her career and experience on the set of Titanic, and I'm so excited. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the Titanic Legacy podcast, Bo!
Hi.
Hello! I'm so glad we finally got this figured out and got the technology and got you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
I know, technically challenged. What can I say?
Oh no, it's not just you. It's a life in general. You know, everyone's got crazy schedules, and being able to connect is really special. And I'm very excited. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, Paul, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Let's throw it all the way back to the very beginning, because we've spoken on the phone a couple of times, but I don't know your story, and neither does anybody listening. So, how did you first get into film?
Oh, wow. Well, I volunteered on a bad B horror movie with Phyllis Diller, and she turned into a 10-foot ghoul in the movie. And that was the only time she was ever seen with her real hair.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I got started. I volunteered, and the first day I worked, they asked me to go pick up Phyllis Diller at the hotel. And this was in a small town in North Carolina, Statesville, North Carolina. So I go to pick up Phyllis Diller, and I knock on the door, and Phyllis herself comes to the door. And she's like, come in. I'm like, okay. So I go in, and she's got this sketch pad, and she's writing like mad, furiously. And she goes straight to the television. And she's just writing. And I'm like, oh, Miss Diller, I've come to take you to the set and whatever. And she's just writing. She's not even paying attention to me. She's like, this is such great material. And she was watching Phil Donahue. And Donahue had 3 guys on who all claimed to be Jesus Christ, and one was getting a divorce, and it was just crazy. And she was just having a blast. And so finally, this was pre-cell phones, any of that stuff. I'm in this old, so now the phone starts ringing, and she's just writing, and I'm like, so eventually I just answered the phone. Like, she didn't even go like, answer the phone or nothing, right?
Yeah.
Answer the phone is the set. They're like, where are you? And I'm like, Phyllis won't leave. Jesus is on Donahue. And that was my first intro into the film business. And so we watched all of Donahue, and then we went.
It reminds me, my mom still is a huge General Hospital fan. And when she went into labor with me, but she refused to leave the house until the episode of General Hospital had finished. My dad was like, come on, you're in labor. And she's like, but Elizabeth Taylor's the Ice Queen on General Hospital. I have to see what happens. So we're on Phyllis Diller's time, and you finally get her to set. Did you like, was anybody mad, or was it just like, that's fine?
Yeah, please. It was a no budget. I think, what are you going to do?
Got it.
She was a star. That'll tell you something. She was an amazing person, though. Actually, Phyllis Diller was a concert pianist. And we
Wow.
had a Phyllis Diller laugh-alike contest at the end of the film. I got second place. Phyllis got first.
Ah,
But yeah, I dredge that up every so often, but I don't think your listeners want to hear that.
it reminds me of Charlie Chaplin entered a Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest and got third.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So after this B
Wow.
movie experience, you were just bitten by the bug, and you were like, I want to keep this is it.
Yeah. Well, I lived in Asheville, North Carolina at the time. So at the time, shortly after that is when Last of the Mohicans came to town.
Mm.
And that sort of was the catalyst for everything. Last of the Mohicans was out of control. It was really the precursor to Titanic in so many ways. It was the largest movie of its time by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And for the next 10 years, easily, like it was the poo, But the movie started out being like a 3-month schedule. It was eventually basically like 6 months long.
Another movie that had a lot of trouble during production, went way over time and way over budget, and had a great soundtrack and had Bo on the crew, is what we're here to talk about. How did, in this career journey of yours, 4 or 5 years later, how did you land on James Cameron's Titanic?
Well, it's fascinating because the film world is smaller than you think in so many ways, right?
Sure.
Especially
Yeah.
those kind of films. But so that got me started. And then was it? It must have been. Summersby was coming to shoot in Hot Springs, Virginia, and I was just determined to get on that movie. Loved Jodie Foster, and it was just my kind of thing. Horses, I just love it.
Yeah.
And I got turned down a bunch of times. So we hired all the PAs. They were all coming in with Richard Gere and all that stuff. And I'm getting to Titanic. I am, I swear. But so I got told no. So I said to myself, well, then I'm going. So I got in the car and I drove 600 miles to a place called Hot Springs, Virginia, which is up in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. It has a huge hotel, the Hot Springs, that's very much like the Grove Park Inn in Asheville, North Carolina. It's spectacular, unbelievable place. But that's it. That's it. One stoplight, couple little breakfasty restaurants, and that's it. Nothing. No bar.
Tiny town. Yeah.
Yeah. Literally at the top of a mountain. And so I go there and I spend the night in the hotel, and I march into the production office the next morning. And that night at the hotel, I watched the movie McClintock, which I loved. And if you don't know McClintock, it was directed by, turns out, Josh McLaughlin, who's the first AD from Titanic. His father directed that movie, and they love just big stuff and action and all that stuff. And and they said, well, how'd you find out? And I said, well, last night I was watching one of my movies, McClintock, because I love the scene where they're all, John Wayne and all these people are sliding down the mountain, and there's this drunken Indian wandering through. All the Indians are fighting with the local guys over the farmer and the non-farmer's daughter, and the whole, it's got all bells and whistles, and they're all sliding down this big mud pit. It's a great scene, wonderful. And so it turns out I'm talking about a film that his dad directed, first film he ever directed. And so that helped a lot. And then we were talking about Last of the Mohicans and horses and cows and oxen and whatever. And that pretty much clinched it. And they created a spot for me. So that's how I got to Josh McLaughlin. And I did another film with him called The Program. My path to Titanic was two things. The fact that I have a really strong personality and the ability to lead the masses. So the extras thing that I wouldn't have gotten in the first place turned out to be, my bread and butter. Awesome. And it's clearly what got me to Titanic, because that was, that being in charge of that faction of that film is about the biggest job there is.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So much to be said for, and I've said this several times on the podcast, but just the as someone who did a lot of extra work to try to get my SAG card back when I was trying to get my SAG card, I know how tedious a job it is and how important it is. But then watching films like Titanic, and you if you have this kind of background, you notice the extras. And something I say about Titanic all the time is Cameron did a fantastic job of making it seem like these were living, breathing people with their own backstories. And so not only in all the chaotic stuff toward the end when the ship's going down, but throughout the film, bringing back, obviously there's core extras, but just making everyone who you see on camera believable as someone who's living in that time and on that ship. The extra work on Titanic is phenomenal.
Well, it is. It was impeccable. And an incredible commitment at every level, because cold water, tight outfits, heavy wool. The list is all night. Most people don't realize the work that goes into a film. You can take all the lights in the world and make daytime at night if you have enough light, but you can't make night in the middle of the day. It's impossible if you're outside. You have to shoot at night. And a lot of people, like, I'll talk to people and I'll say, it's got to be night.
Right.
They don't, it's the first time that even dawns on them, right? Because we go in to be entertained. Like I always talk about, one of the things I bring up in my speeches a lot is about, there's two kinds of films to some degree, which is dramas, where you look at the movie from the inside out, and a documentary where you're looking from the outside in. And so it's really important, and that's kind of what you were getting at in so many ways, the fabric of the people as well, right? Their backstories, that what they created for themselves, most of those extras, most of those backgrounds, because there's nothing extra about them. They're living fabric, and it's an imperative in a film of that nature, in my opinion, So the fact that they did that, both Jim, but the people who are all invested, it's the same like the people that are invested in, that are here and listening to this right now and listening to your stories and those stories, right? Whether you're a historian or you're a crew member, right? It's you really got to be invested to you take ownership of it at that point, and it becomes a living story, no matter whether it's documentary or not, whether it's a historian documenting the elements or not. So it's magnificent. The ship is one thing, but the people were another. Without the people, it's nothing. Go see any other Titanic movie and have a laugh.
And it's super easy to just like get pulled right out of the scene, out of your imaginary space watching the film, if something in the background is off or is not genuine. So it is very important work, and unsung a lot of the times. But so you're 6 or 7 years into your film career, and you find yourself in Rosarito, and working for James Cameron. What was your first initial feeling once you got to set and saw the sets and the production?
Um, I guess I I just sort of become where I am. You know,
Okay.
I've always been that kind of person. I'm here, I'm outside, I love nature, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, I know, like, for example, I could have never worked in a bank or something, because if I worked with like four other people, like three of them would hate me, maybe. Yeah, it's true. You know, but but
Good
outside,
self-assessment.
outside, um, you know, I'm just in my element, and then in that regard too, I'm just, for lack of a better way of putting it, I've had to live with me for this long, so I guess, like, I'm kind of large and in charge. I thrive on the activity and all of that. I love people, so it was just, I don't know. I just dove right in. It was Josh. So the first person I had to see was Josh.
Yeah.
It took me down to where the extras were and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, hello, you're not going to come see me. And he was on a quiet set, that little area where it was, there's a museum here that has that same room. It's like a garden room or something. You barely see it in the movie. And I can't even remember where we did see it. But, he's just like, well, let's go. so, So that's what I did. So I don't know. I just kind of just did what I do. And, I didn't have time they had already started, by the way. They were already
Okay.
in trouble there in a big way when I got there. So they were probably shooting there for a month or more at,
Okay.
Rosarito. Um,
I often call Titanic the last true Hollywood epic, just based on because after Titanic, the green screens came in and really changed the way films were made and sets were built. So you've been on two epic movies now. You've seen the fort at Last of the Mohicans, and now you're seeing the Titanic set for the first time. Were you kind of blown away at all, or was it just like, yeah, this is Hollywood, we're making epic movies?
um, yeah, um, neither.
Okay.
For me, it was just my job, right?
Yeah.
Like, I dug it. So it's more about just getting in the mix and
Yeah.
getting getting the work done. Like, I love the process. So, well,
Hmm.
most, yeah. After the fact, especially, but right, because it's hard work. But
Yeah.
but that being said, the process is the part that's fun for me. Um, the rest of it is just how you navigate, Um, but there's all these elements that are, crazy fun when you look at them after the fact more than any other time. In the moment, you're just like, oh my God, it's what, 4 in the morning, and we've still got at least 3 hours because Jim continues to shoot after the sun comes up and until people start throwing things. So I don't know. I was I really wanted to work on the film. I was there, and that's why I was there. And so
Yeah.
I was never overwhelmed by like, I've never been starstruck. I don't it's not, well, after the film, like, people were always like, oh, they and for me, it
Yeah.
was just my job. That made me feel awkward. I never wanted to be a star or something, none of
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. I just liked what I did.
And during the time when you guys were shooting, nobody knew if it was going to be a flop
Oh,
or,
seriously, yeah.
this could end up being like a B movie, total end Cameron's career. But of course, we know how it all ended. But do you remember the first time you met James?
Oh gosh. Uh in passing, hi, this is Bo. Pretty much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh I didn't really have any, what I want to, intimate with James, because you've got Josh is right next to camera.
Right.
He's setting the big picture. Most people don't understand what the assistant directors do, right? Our job is for we're the director's team. So he's got, James has got the overall look, which is already there and whatever, the relationship with the actors and what he wants out of the actors. But it's the rest of the team to put the big picture together and in the same way. And it's just a massive job. So any one person that's not doing it in an undertaking like that, that's a big deal, because that's the fabric going by, And then you've just got the moments that are unmistakable. Like the first night that we were ever shooting, where we had a bunch of stunt players jumping off the boat. It's as people at this point in the movie are making their way to the tilting poop deck, to the tail end of the ship, and Leo's dragging Kate and stuff, and they jump over railings and stuff like this. And at that point, people are jumping off. And that night, we were doing people jumping off, stunt people. But the stunt coordinator, Simon Crane, he was from England. A massive amount of the core extras were Spanish and didn't speak a lick of English. All of the stunt guys were from Ukraine. They didn't speak either. And so there was a lot of that going on. We have people from all over the world. But anyway, I'm in one faction trying to funnel people to do a little background where the stunt guys are going to be jumping over, right? And also I've got people down in the water for the first time ever. And it's in this big holding tank where there's maybe 12 feet where it's deep water, like 50 whatever deep. And then standing in chest high water from that point on, the vast ocean, so to speak. And and everybody that was in the water that night was Spanish. None of them spoke any English at all. And they were having trouble getting the background set. Luckily, I was up on set. I could have been down in the water, and it would have been really horrible. But anyway, and I was later. But so I'm standing there, and this is how the events went. First, Russell Carpenter, the most incredible DP, director of photography on the planet, gentle, kind, and brilliant man, comes by me. And I was just at this spot where everybody's going to end up coming by me, right? And he says, Bo, I can't light all this. I can't possibly light all this. I can't do it. And he's making his way up by camera. The next person that comes by me is Sebastian Silva, who was, each of us had, like if you had me, then you had a Mexican counterpart. That was part of the deal in shooting in Mexico. And I call Sebastian the only tall Mexican, because he was like 6 foot something, and everybody else was like, shorter than me. And I'm not short, but most of the men weren't tall. And Sebastian's like, whoa, who's in the water? He goes up to, he's by Josh. Next person that comes flying by me is Simon Crane, and I was the person everybody yelled at, and that's fine. It was a good fall guy. And Simon Crane, the stunt coordinator, comes by me and he goes like, "Whoa! How come nobody in the water can speak English?" And he just keeps going, right? And I start counting 29, 28, 27, because I know it's coming, right? Next thing, 10, 9, 0. Josh McGoggin. Whoa! On the radio. How come nobody in the water speaks English? Thank God for Sebastian Silva, because Sebastian Silva comes on the radio and goes, "What can I tell you, Josh? The Mexicans are the only ones crazy enough to want to get in the water."
That's hilarious.
He just completely saved my ass on that.
Yeah.
So, but that's how it went all the time. A lot of times, like Josh will yell at you, or it's like it's like you're showing that you're getting things accomplished. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can you imagine not only being like a stunt performer and doing like dangerous stuff for work, but doing it and it's not like you're not even on a set that's speaking your language.
Right. Either language.
Right.
Right, because then the people jumping off are Ukrainian.
Ukrainian, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm laughing because I'm thinking, Simon, well, that's pot kettle. Yeah. Why are you yelling at me? You know, but so there really wasn't any time to be. I'm in awe of the movie after the fact.
I was going to ask you after seeing the finished product, and a lot of people who haven't been on a movie set like don't realize how tedious the work is. It's cliche to say, well, a lot goes into making a movie, but like until you're on a set, especially something, I can't imagine something as epic as, these scenes that you're shooting as the ship is sinking, in Titanic. But, when you finally sit down in a theater and you see the finished product, what really was your reaction to the movie the first time you saw it?
Oh, I mean, it's hard not to be proud of something so amazing. I mean, it's riveting. It's more than 3 hours long, and and the time flies by.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about it, and that's credit to Jim Cameron in so many ways, is pristine, right? The carpet, the sets, every last detail is there. I know a lot of times, like the historians, well, that didn't really happen, but that comes back to the documentary versus drama, right? The mistake that most directors make, in my opinion, that Jim Cameron knows very, very well, right, is that even in a big movie, right, most of the people would have told Titanic, or had always been told before, generally, from all the first class people, and then there's the couple that dies together, and it's told like that, like ensemble stuff, which I can't stand up ensemble shows because the writing is just terrible and it never makes any sense, but it's horrible. But from the opening scene of Kate at where she's going to be getting on the boat, to others it was the ship of dreams, but to me it was a prison, right? What do you see? She turns her head, the hat comes up, and you see everything from that point on through her eyes, right? So you tell the story with and through someone. It doesn't matter if they're real or not. They're real to you in the element of the storytelling. And that's what becomes really, really important. It's like I use Forrest Gump a lot as kind of a learning tool when I'm trying to teach young filmmakers, because I say, what is Forrest Gump about?
Forrest Gump's life.
Okay, so everybody gets it wrong, including filmmakers all the time. It's about life is about, you have it right to some extent. Life's a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And what does that director do exceptionally well? You see 5 people's box of chocolates is what you see throughout that film. You see Forrest, Lieutenant Dan, Bubba Gump, Jenny, and Mama, right? So you see the box of chocolates. And it's a wonderful way of storytelling. I mean, I'm on The Fugitive in a room with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, and neither of them are talking. And I'm like, this is a problem, right? When you got the biggest actors in the room that you're paying a bundle to, and somebody else is giving, lines that aren't pertinent to driving the story, off with your head.
Yeah.
That's just, and Jim does that exceptionally well, whether
Sure.
and the boat in some fashion is a box of chocolates. It's probably the biggest box, actually, right? So the tail of the ship itself, why it was so important, right? Why it was the ship of dreams, why it was the biggest ship ever. There's so much to the actual boat that you really have to tell the story through the eyes of someone who's not got all those other flavors that have to come into play. I'm first class, I'm this, right? It's beautiful how he melds the two things together, because the ship of dreams is about everybody finding a new life for themselves. No one had done that before. Like when people were I was at another event, and the people were talking about, for example, the Chinese guys that all happened to survive. And people always tell these, in my opinion, they're conjectured stories about suddenly they all don wigs and women's clothing and all that. And I think to myself, a lot of these people have never been on a boat, no less one that's sinking in the middle of the ocean. Are you really thinking about, let me go find some women's clothing somewhere?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and in that specific case, like all the Chinese passengers had all worked on ships before, and that's a huge reason most of them survived, was because they knew the drill and they
Knew something
what
to do. There you
Yeah.
go. Right. Right. They
But
had some idea how they could save themselves.
yeah, to your point, like Cameron knew, he, as a huge Titanic enthusiast himself, he knew he wanted to make a movie about Titanic, and he knew the only way he was going to get the funding from Fox was to put a fictional love story into it. But as such a huge fan, he wanted to add as much history as he could. And yeah, that is a huge criticism that I hear all the time that I think is just uninformed, in that, like, well, it's not historically accurate in this point and that point and this point, and it didn't have to be at all, but he put so much history into it because he was such a huge enthusiast. And if at that point you're making those kind of criticisms, it's like, you don't understand. It's a story. It's a story that you're supposed to just enjoy the story of Jack and Rose. Like, why, if you're nitpicking at that point, you're missing the point.
Right. Because I come back to the boat, really, because all of that, in a way, starts out with that first line, doesn't it? To others, it was the ship of dreams. To me, it was a prison, but it turned out to be quite the opposite, because she met a dreamer. A lot of people, even today, right? You've got wealthy people, you've got poor people, but we seem to think that we're so far apart, but we're not, right? She was in a prison. You look at a lot of people, and I see people all the time, and we're all a little trapped somehow. We trap ourselves most of the time. But when you start letting go and really seeing others, I think you become more and more free, and we're at a time, I think it's more important again. If I wanted to revisit anything from Titanic, I would say the important lesson is to follow your dreams, is to really get out there and follow your dreams, because I don't think people are doing that much anymore. That we're really stagnant, or you got influencers. Well, that's not you. Is that your dream? You know what I mean? It's like, or you see craftsmen that were just so good at what they do, and or a great cook, or I see people, and in an odd kind of way, with the whole COVID thing, all these people started doing, I'm taking cooking classes. They started breaking out into other things that they really liked to do. And I know a lot of people that went on to do those things then, that just didn't go back to a corporate world, or didn't go back to, the biggest blessing that I've ever had in life was I wasn't with 3 other people that hated me in the bank. Right?
Yeah.
So in so many ways, I was living the dream. And I've always been enamored with photography. I still do lots of nature photography and all these things, and I really love it. And I'm trying to make a move just to have that still in my life as I get older and other things. And it's like that was everything I loved. So I wasn't overwhelmed. I was just there. I really got to live the present.
Yeah.
Somebody at the last event asked in the roundtable discussion something about, well, did you feel like the ghosts of the dead were there? And I was like, no, no, I didn't. I felt like we were there.
Yeah.
And we were living it and reliving it. And that's a joyous experience. I mean, wow. And then there's just nutty stuff that was tons of fun. That was just too crazy. But, it was, yeah, I mean, those are one of a kind experiences that you can't remake because you're living them in your own. But see, Titanic, yes, it's a film, but it brought people in to the story again. And like I went to this Titanic museum here in Orlando, and really beautiful. And we had such a great time. But it's the film that brings people there. Do they love the boat and Titanic and the story? They absolutely do. Do they like the historians? They absolutely do. But that's not what gets them there in the first place. And so Titanic has done a magnificent job of just the weight and the breadth and the heart of what all of that meant.
Yeah.
Which in so many ways, talking to you now is just a reminder. It's something like if I had a new title, for a talk, it would probably be about the ship of dreams, the dreams, because I think we've lost that too somewhat. And that anything that we love or we research, like I research lots of stuff. I love it. I'm enamored with learning and just doing things that nobody else is going to tell me about. So I'm going to go find out. You know what I mean? It's just, because otherwise you're living in four walls and you're looking in a four-walled phone and you're watching a four-walled TV ostensibly, and you're certainly not living the dream.
I say all the time I'm a broken record when I say on this podcast and my other one where I talk to creative people and talk about inspiration, is just like when you follow your heart's fire, doors open. And it seems like that's what led you to Titanic. And it's a big, it's a theme in the film. Rose is set on a path. All the her future decisions are already made for her. And that's why she feels like she's on a slave ship. But then she meets Jack, who just follows his heart, and it takes him around the world. And that is, I think, the theme that we're talking about right now is just like, we wish more people would live that way. But of course, the way the world is structured, it's like we're taught growing up, you need to have a job, you need to do this. And if your parents did it, you should probably do it too. And I think the more ways, whether it's through storytelling or through giving talks at conventions or whatever, but however we can inspire people to follow their heart's fire, I think that is such an important thing to do in life. And
yes,
that's a big reason Cameron made this film. Like, he's a huge Titanic enthusiast. He wanted to tell a story about Titanic. And that film that you helped him create lit a fire among a whole new generation and really reinvigorated the interest in the film and the passion. I mean, it's the interest in the ship and the passion that people have still today. A lot of people saw that movie when they were kids, and now, like, that's what led them to Titanic. Not a National Geographic with Robert Ballard, but James Cameron's Titanic. And you were part of that.
Well, not the National Geographic, though.
I'm not. That's what led me to it when I was 6 years old, when Ballard found the wreck. Like, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? But what I'm saying is, like, Cameron's film lit the fire for the next generation,
Yeah,
and is still.
absolutely. Yes. When we were at the other event, somebody had asked this question, or they'd asked a question, and somebody had responded, well, all these kids think the movie is real. And, in my speech, I mentioned that, and I said, yeah, but that's your job now, right? How can they know any different? Because you're now the elder in the room. We have to get back to storytelling. We have to get back to one-on-one. And the other thing, I think, because we are in an age where they're trying to polarize everybody, is to unpolarize yourself is really important, because you may never know who's Kate locked in a cage. You may never know. Like, I cannot tell you how many sets and extras I've been on, and there's extras sitting there, and they're absolute millionaires, and nobody even knows it. They're just wanting to follow some dream of their own, And and the most wonderful people I've ever met that have become family and cared for me and still joy with me. And it's like, how can you? I used to have these things, I called them bumper bows, but just little statements I would do. But one of my favorites was, you can't get there if you don't go. You can't, and that means, emotionally and in every way possible. I'll have to send you, for Christmas this year, I made all my own presents, and I made calendars from my photography and natures, but with it, I set a story about my father. And it's a memory about my mom and dad bringing me home to my home in North Carolina the day before my birthday, and I'm in a halo from my second broken neck coming home from the hospital. And it's April 17th. April 16th. April 17th is my birthday. And in Asheville, North Carolina, at that time of year, the azaleas and the flowers are the most beautiful place in all of America. It's just gorgeous. And I lived on the north side of town, where to get from the hospital to my house, you go right past the Grove Park Inn, which is the place I was talking about, similar to the hot springs. Big, magnificent, look it up, Grove Park. Gorgeous. Old stone. There's very few places like it. It's like we've got the Biltmore Estate there, and you had the Grove Park Inn. Anyway, that street is called Kimberly. Now, my dad, anyone who knew my dad knew a few things about him. He loved golf, but he loved ice cream, and he loved flowers. Like, he just loved flowers. And he grew beautiful roses. And anyway, he loved Asheville because of the flowers and all that stuff. So he's driving me home. I get in the car, I'm in this halo thing. I mean, if you don't know what a halo is, it's like a cage around your body. It's bolted into your skull and all this kind of stuff. And I had to sit on the curb to get in this big Lincoln or whatever, 4-door they had, whatever it was, And I'm rubbing on the ceiling, the seat's all the way back. And so we're driving, my mom's in the backseat. And so we get on Kimberly, and my dad is talking about the azaleas. And let me tell you, they were the most beautiful they probably of any year ever. The entire, so you're coming down Kimberly, one side's the Grove Park Inn golf course, down the mountain, the golf course. And the other side is all the regal homes in Asheville, North Carolina, and azaleas, like a blanket of them, right? And my father is going on and on. Oh, these azaleas, he's just going crazy. And I'm sitting there thinking, how the hell am I going to get out of this car? That's all I'm thinking about. I wonder what I could come up with to get out of this car, because I'm a little bit stuck right now, right? That's all I'm thinking about. And I can hear my mom in the back seat, and she's kind of like hemming and hawing as my dad's going on, right? So we get up to the four-way stop, and that is the corner of Kimberly and Graceland, it's called. And Graceland goes uphill. And if you look to the right and you look up Graceland at that time of year, it is the prettiest street in all of America, because both sides are blanketed by azaleas, right? We get to the stop sign, and my father, now granted, he's driving and I'm sitting here. And he goes, and look up, Graceland. My mother just loses it. She goes, oh, Hank, she can't look. And my father said the most amazing thing, and I've never forgotten it. And I've always wanted, it's what I want every day for the rest of my life to share. But he said, but I can tell her about them. And I just think if you do nothing else with your life but share the things that you really find beautiful, the real beauty in life, the beauty of one another, the beauty of love, the beauty of that child, for me it's nature, then you're a success. I mean, not that success is important, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that was beautiful. You just gave me goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Um, I asked for 30 minutes of your time and I've gone way over, but before and we're going to have to continue this conversation. I got to get you and
I
Judy
can't wait.
on. We got
to do more.
I want to hear stories about the kooky, nutty stuff you're talking about. But it's been so great to meet and get to know you here on the podcast. Before I do release you like Kate or like Rose to the world, what would you say is the biggest takeaway? What is the impact that working on Titanic made on your life that is still part of your life today?
I think it's still, I don't know if it's as much, it's Titanic, but it's everything. It's the whole story. It's what I was saying about my dad just now. It's about the things you loved. I loved filmmaking. I loved it. And I love great storytelling. I really love great stories, because everything is a story. And that's important. That's the important part to impart, right? Maybe your story isn't Titanic. It's something else, it's part of your life now. It's the fires in California. It's the fires in La Haina. It's the homeless on your street. Whatever, those are our stories now. So I think really most of it is, they always say the past is history, the future is a mystery, but living in the present is the gift.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us I always say, never say have a great day, say live a great day, right? Because you don't have it. If you have it, it's already forgotten. It's not about being present in it. And yeah. I think more than anything, that's the gift that I was given, is that every day, I'm a 2-time cancer thriver, broken, you name it, I've had it, 18 surgeries, I'm a walking miracle. Literally. I don't know how good I walk anymore, but I'm at it, and I got a crazy dog to prove it. And, it's like, I just think that, joy isn't a given if you're not living it. You got, it's embodiment,
All we have is this moment. We are magic. We are bones and flesh attached to a rock that is spinning through space around a fireball. And the past is gone. The future hasn't happened yet. All we have is the magic that is this moment right now. And I thank you, Bo, for sharing this moment with us, sharing your heart and your joy. And I can't wait to dig into more stories with you in the future. But like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Oh, Looking forward to all the future conversations. And if you at home are also looking forward to it, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, rate, leave a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps the show continue to grow. And I want to say thank you one more time to our guest, Bo, as everyone she works with. Kathleen, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and thanks to everyone for sharing your time with us, as we know it is all that we have is this moment, and we appreciate you spending yours with us. Until the next episode, seize the day, follow your heart's fire, and make each day count.